Welcome to Box Recaps. Today I'm going to explain the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, released in the year 2008. It is the year 1928. A climber is packing his gear for a fresh ascent in the snow-covered Indian mountains of the Karakoram. He notices a dazzling ray of light in the sky. The climber discovers a glowing orb coated by a thin coating of ice as he makes his way toward the source of the light. He uses a pickaxe to break the ice. He is quickly bathed in a blinding light and loses consciousness. After a while, the climber awakens to find that the sphere has vanished and a peculiar circular mark has developed on his arm. At the current moment, Dr. Helen Benson, an astronomer, presents a talk about alien microbes at Princeton University. The lab technician invites her to a party after class, but she declines since she has stuff at home. This refers to her young stepson Jacob. At home, the youngster refuses to consume nutritious foods and instead spends his time playing video games. A police unit arrives at the woman's residence moments later. The man in the suit informs Dr. Benson that the FBI requires her assistance. The perplexed mother gets into her car, leaving Jacob in the hands of her neighbor. Helen attempts to find out why the FBI requires her on the trip, but the agents are clueless. However, the situation is urgent. Otherwise, she would not have been led in this manner. Dr. Benson boards a military chopper when they arrive at an airbase. There are civilians who are equally uninformed of the situation. The scientists are transported to New Jersey's Linwood Military Academy. Their mobile phones are confiscated upon entering the building, but Helen manages to conceal her phone. Dr. Michael Grenier greets them and informs them of the situation. An unexplained space object is nearing Earth. According to the experts' first estimates, the object will certainly crash with the planet, and owing to its speed, it will be difficult to fire it down. The government decided to assemble an emergency response team to cope with the effects of the impending disaster. The crew just has a little more than an hour before the cosmic object crashes and murders 8 million people. Helen locks herself in the toilet after the meeting to phone Jacob and warn him of the danger. She isn't sure how to break the news to her child, instructs him to lock himself in the basement to wait out the storm. Someone overhears her discussion. A group of scientists travel to the location of the object's impact. Something is obstructing the rocket launch system. They clutch each other in panic, but nothing occurs. The crew notices a brilliant ball of light approaching Earth through the helicopter window. The item settles in the midst of Central Park, terrifying residents. The scientists approach the luminous sphere with caution, wearing protective suits. Everyone in the room is dazzled by a dazzling light, and an extraterrestrial creature appears to greet them. Helen approaches the alien gently, as if hypnotized, and he offers his hand to her. The lady responds by reaching out to him, but a gun is fired, and the extraterrestrial visitor falls unconscious into her arms. Suddenly, a massive beast arrives out of nowhere and disables all machinery. The beast reaches out for the injured alien, but he is stopped by a single gesture. The biological robot freezes and shuts off instantly. Humans have no notion of how to handle the extraterrestrial on a medical level. Helen suggests that they hire a surgeon to remove the bullet. The physicians realize that the alien is identical to a human after removing the complete outer shell. The alien's vitals quickly return to normal, and he regains consciousness. The extraterrestrial panics at first, but when he meets Helen, he calms down. Meanwhile, the extraterrestrial visitor has gained full human form and resembles the climber from 1928. The entire planet is in shock. While the president and vice president seek refuge in a shelter, U.S. Secretary of Defense Regina Jackson assumes command of the situation. She's informed in an emergency meeting that the aliens have successfully hacked into one of the surveillance satellites. They now have access to all classified national defense information. Regina arrives in the lab and listens to the scientists' report. According to Dr. Helen, the aliens previously visited Earth and took a sample of human DNA. This is how the injured extraterrestrial visitor was able to assume human form. The gang pays a visit to the alien in his quarters. Jackson addresses the alien first, but receives no response. Helen then asks him to tell her a little bit about himself and his name. The extraterrestrial identifies himself as Klaatu and claims to be a representative of civilization. the alien requests a special UN meeting at which he intends to speak, but Regina declines. Regina orders the alien to be injected with truth serum and sent to a safer place for questioning after conversing with him. Klaatu, according to scientists, will be the most significant discovery in human history. The Secretary of Defense, on the other hand, feels that a representative of an extraterrestrial society constitutes a significant threat to mankind. Dr. Grenier gets into a confrontation with Regina, but Helen intervenes. She tells them that she will inject the alien herself and complete all required tests. The FBI agent delivers the serum, but she takes an ordinary saline ampule from the shelf. Regina informs Klaatu that he will be moved to a more secure place. The alien disagrees and announces his intention to depart the military installation. Regina instructs Dr. Benson to give the shot. Helen says softly to the alien that he must flee. The doctor is promptly hauled away by the military after the surgery, and Klaatu is shackled to a chair and transported to a room with a lie detector. The agent grills him with a series of questions. Klaatu eventually reprograms the lie detector, and the agent is electrocuted. The extraterrestrial takes over the man's consciousness and teaches him how to escape the military installation. The alien dons the agent's costume after obtaining all of the essential information from him. Although an alarm sounds, Klaatu manages to depart the premises silently. Helen grabs a sample of the alien's flesh during the hubbub. When Regina learns of Klaatu's escape, she orders the employment of all available resources to apprehend the fugitive. The alien arrives at the railway station, which is in full disarray. Klaatu is hungry because he is one-third human, so he utilizes his skills to grab a free meal from a vending machine. He gets nauseated unexpectedly and rushes to the toilet, where he discovers crimson fluid oozing from his gunshot wound. The extraterrestrial faints due to the weakness of the human body. A bell rings at Helen's residence. An unknown man notifies the doctor that her patient has arrived at the station. Helen rushes out the door to fetch him up. She puts him in the car with the unpleasant Jacob. Klaatu requests that Helen provide him with a sample of the gray tissue that was extracted from him. He dabs it on his wound, and it cures instantaneously. Meanwhile, the U.S. military attempts to strike the biorobot. The giant activates quickly upon detecting the oncoming threat. It seizes power and destroys all military equipment. Helen continues to pursue the path prescribed by Klaatu. Jacob witnesses a massive traffic gridlock of automobiles attempting to flee the city. The youngster despises the aliens and feels they must be exterminated. They reach their goal. Klaatu inquires about Jacob's family while he goes to the toilet. The boy's father was a military engineer, and his mother died during giving birth. Dr. Benson married Jacob's father, but he died and the kid was left in her care. They enter a fast food restaurant where Klaatu meets the elderly Mr. Wu. He too is an alien brought to Earth many years ago to study mankind. Klaatu informs him about the operation and advises him to depart. Mr. Wu has grown to love the Earthlings and has his own family. Although the old guy believes that humans are destroying the world, he would gladly spend the dying moments of mankind with them. Hundreds of calls are received by an emergency hotline from people who have seen Klaatu. The individual is posed as a fleeing criminal in the minister's direction. Meanwhile, Helen, the alien, and Jacob go to the state of New Jersey. A swarm of insects sweeps past Helen as they wait outside, leading her to a lake where the alien is standing. She observes in silence as another light ball rises from the ocean. At the same time, Klaatu causes alien spheres to appear all over the Earth. Helen returns to the car, shocked by what she finds. Jacob interrogates her about the man accompanying them. Jacob bolts from the automobile and into the woods. Helen follows him as they discover a dazzling ray of light shining through the foliage. It is a bright ball that, like all previous extraterrestrial spheres, is departing from the Earth. Only one sphere, the one in which Klaatu came, remains on Earth. The alien emerges from the forest and requests that Helen transport him back to the city. She refuses to assist him and demands to know what is going on. Klaatu informs her that humanity's activities are ruining the Earth. They've come to save Earth from mankind, since there aren't many planets in the cosmos where sophisticated biological beings can survive. The extraterrestrial thinks that removing all human contamination from the Earth will allow it to be resurrected. Dr. Helen tries to persuade the extraterrestrial that people may improve and deserve another opportunity, but he refuses. They've been studying humans for years, hoping for a shift, but the situation has reached a tipping point. Despite Helen's pleadings, Klaatu assures her that the process has already begun and that nothing can be done to halt it. One of the police officers manages to track down the extraterrestrial. He takes out a revolver and orders him to surrender. Jacob begs Klaatu not to attack the cop. The alien states unemotionally that his anguish will be brief, and with a flick of his palm, guides Helen's automobile in the direction of the cop. Klaatu uses the energy from the automobile to resurrect the guy after he stops exhibiting signs of life. Helen is certain that he can halt time. She suggests to Klaatu that they take him to someone who can persuade him to alter his attitude. Meanwhile, the Secret Services are looking into the reason for the aliens landing in our world. Scientists discover that diverse Earth animals are being carried into the light spheres. Secretary Regina believes that what is happening is akin to Noah's Ark's rescue of living beings. The American commanders recognize that an attack is imminent. They store the biorobot in a deep subterranean silo. Riots begin to erupt across the world. Dr. Helen introduces Klaatu to an elderly Nobel Prize-winning mathematician. A formula on the board draws the alien's attention, and he decides to rectify it. When the scientist notices this, he joins him, and they work together to tackle the unfinished business. The astounded scientist quickly recognizes the person in front of him. While the grown-ups are conversing, Jacob notices an APB on Klaatu and dials the hotline number. The scientist inquires about the guest's civilization's survival. Klaatu explains that their sun began to go out, forcing them to develop in order to live. The mathematician convinces his visitor that mankind, which is on the verge of annihilation, is also capable of reform. The scientist's remarks cause the extraterrestrial to contemplate, but his musings are interrupted as Air Force helicopters come. Klaatu, Helen, and Jacob rush out of the scientist's home. In closing, he tells Dr. Benson to influence the alien's perspective by action rather than argument. They try to hide in the woods from the troops. Jacob comes to a halt in an open space and begins yelling and flailing his arms to catch the helicopter's attention. The youngster admits to his stepmother that he was the one who summoned the SWAT squad. Suddenly, one of the troops snatches Dr. Benson, and the chopper returns to base. The other two helicopters locate Klaatu and prepare to attack. The extraterrestrial stuns the pilots and smashes the helicopters into each other using his powers. Jacob escapes into the woods, terrified that the alien would seek vengeance. Klaatu catches up with the youngster and saves him from plunging into the river. The extraterrestrial persuades the youngster to accompany him. When Helen is led to the headquarters, she requests that the Secretary of Defense release her. Klaatu somehow listens to her, and only she can stop him and avert calamity. Meanwhile, inside the military installation, special soldiers are conducting experiments on the massive biorobot. One of the diamond drills cracks while attempting to puncture its armor. Metal insects develop and reproduce at an alarming pace inside the fracture. Soon after, the massive alien disintegrates into millions of microscopic pieces that reveal to be bug-like nanorobots. They consume everything in their path. The military informs Regina of the situation. After breaking free, the nanorobots have created a massive cloud that is moving in all directions and destroying everything in their path. The Secretary of Defense agrees to release Helen in order for her to talk with Klaatu. Michael Grenier, a scientific buddy, is sent to her rescue. The alien transports Jacob to a lodge and allows him to contact his stepmother. Jacob tells the alien he no longer wishes to destroy him. He begins to rethink his convictions and the need of annihilating mankind. The youngster transports the alien to the graveyard where his father is interred. He begs Klaatu to resuscitate his father, just as he did previously with the patrolmen. However, the extraterrestrial visitor's talents are ineffective in this situation. Jacob, frustrated, urges the alien to go. Helen rushes up to the kid and comforts him. Klaatu is now convinced that mankind has a bright side and that people deserve another shot after seeing the emotional family reunion. However, in order to accomplish so, they must transform themselves and their way of life. The swarm of nanorobots is fast approaching New York City, devouring a massive stadium in seconds. Despite Regina's pleadings for a peaceful resolution, the President of the United States directs her to resume military operations. Helen, Jacob, Klaatu, and Michael run to Central Park, to the last remaining sphere. As they reach the sphere, they find that the park has been abandoned and that all of the soldiers and scientists have been taken. They are promptly assaulted by the Air Force, which starts a fire on the extraterrestrial orb in accordance with the Secretary of Defense's orders. Klaatu claims that the three of them must reach the orb, but the insect cloud is already en route. Klaatu assists Helen and Jacob in hiding beneath the bridge. However, the harmful bugs have infiltrated Dr. Benson's and the boys' bodies and are slowly eating away at them from the inside. Jacob loses unconsciously as his nose begins to drip crimson goo. Helen begs Klaatu to save the kid at the very least. The extraterrestrial saves them both by extracting the insects from their bodies and transferring them to his own. Klaatu validates the ancient scientist's words. Humans may change when they're on the verge of extinction. He emerges from cover, a last glance at Helen and Jacob, and makes his way to the sphere through the cloud of nanorobots. When Klaatu touches the bright ball, all of the bugs are destroyed. However, all Earth technology is rendered inoperable. Cities are thrown into darkness, and life on the planet grinds to a halt. Klaatu sees this as a fair price to pay for humanity's devastation to the planet. The extraterrestrial departs the world, giving mankind one more chance to make amends. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on the notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.